So in this video, we're going to now expand the declension charts. For so long now, months even, we have just simply known that you had first declension, second declension, and third declension. But now we're going to expand it to where there is another set of endings for second declension and another set of ending for third declension. Now most of the endings of this new column of second declensions are identical to the one we've had previously. And likewise, most are identical to what we've had previously, so there's not a bunch of stuff, obviously, to now learn. Secondly, as is always the case, we are going to obviously have 3 embedded items. Watching this will earn you an easy free 100. Now, first declension we have seen for so long now and known those endings without much problem, in which we know that it was A, AE, AE, AM, and then long A for the singular. And I'll draw my line all the way across. And then, of course, AE, ARUM, IS, AS, long IS, and again, a long IS. And also we've seen so many times before to where these are obviously feminine, and overwhelmingly they are. However, there is a small subset of nouns that even though they are first declension with those first declension endings, they are masculine. And you need to memorize these particular ones. And here you can see them. Now we've seen already the word auriga, and the first one we ever saw was actually a proper noun. We saw geta, getai, a fellow who had a first declension name with first declension endings. Auriga, aurigai, charioteer. Agricola, agricolae, farmer. Incola, incolae, inhabitants. Poeta, poetai, poet. Scriba, scribai, scribe, someone who writes things down. Pirata, piratae, pirate, they had them in the Mediterranean. And conviva, convivai, a dinner guest. Now please note as well that when you are presented a noun in Latin, you are going to first and foremost get 2 forms. The first form of the noun is going to be the nominative form, nominative singular. And then the second form is going to be the genitive singular. And if you look over here at my chart, this asterisk has been there for a long time because it is the genitive singular form that lets you know what declension it belongs to. Your first embedded item is the word agricola. There it is, spell it correctly, the word for farmer. That's the first one you're putting in. And so what you have to do is you have to just understand that these words are masculine. So if I were to say, the boy sees the happy farmer, it'd be puer, vide, the boy sees, and then of course the farmer, agricolam. But when you modify it with the word for happy, it would have to have the same case, accusative, it will be accusative. Number, singular, it will be singular. But remember, even though it looks feminine, agricola is masculine, and so therefore we would use litum to modify it. It doesn't look like it's right, but it is because these are examples of first declension masculine nouns. Now, we're going to come back to this page in just a moment. Now, normally up to this point, and so if I wanted to actually up here, I could write a teeny tiny little bitty m, because there are not that many of them, that are masculine. Now we move on to the second declension. Overwhelmingly, we have learned that the second declension are masculine nouns. And we've seen those endings, us, or sometimes r. Remember, the r is not an ending in those 6 words that, of course, have it. E, o, o, e, orum, is, os, is. And likewise, if we were to move on to the third declension that we are familiar with, you obviously know that some of them are going to be masculine, some of them are going to be feminine, and we've known them for quite a while. The variant is, short is, please note the difference. Variant is, I, em, e, and it's a short e actually. Ace, ibis, ace, ibis. And we'll be taking a quiz in class over these endings that we should be familiar with. But now for the first time, we are going to formally be introduced to words that are neither masculine or feminine. And the Latin word that literally means neither is the Latin word neuter. The Latin word neuter. And so here then you will find out that there are some words that are second declension neuter. And likewise there are some words that are third declension neuter. Now here we have a list of said words. So here, and you will find this in Canvas obviously as a document for you. These are all your second declension neuter nouns. Now remember, whenever you're given a noun, you're given the nominative and the genitive. Nominative and genitive. Nominative singular, genitive singular. And look how all of them in the genitive singular have a long I. The neuter is going to have a long I. But how, when you look at the dictionary entry, do you know that these are neuters? In the nominative, second declension neuters end in um. Do you see it all there? So if I were to give you a brand new word that you have never seen before, and it was second declension, and you would know by looking at the genitive long I, you would look at the nominative form to know whether it was going to be a masculine word whose nominative would have us, or a neuter word whose nominative would have um. So here they are that we've actually seen before. Auxili auxili bacalum, bacali, kizi kubicalum, kubiculi, periculum, periculi, plaustrum, plaustri, vehiculum, vehiculi, silentium, silentii, and wistigii. And you can see the definitions of all of these words here. Help, stick, sports car, room, danger, wagon, vehicle, silence, and track or footprint. Now, there are two rules when it comes to neuters. Rule number one, the nominative form and the accusative form are identical. They are the same. So here what I can do is I can draw down and know that it'll be right there in the accusative. Your second rule concerning the neuters, so these are neuter rules, is that nominative plural, the ending is an A. And so it does not matter whether it is second declension, third declension, fourth declension has neuters, it's going to end in A. And so here I automatically know the A will be there, and then apply the first rule. And what was the first rule? Nominatives and accusatives are the same. And so, even though I haven't even talked about third declension neuters, you will know that that's going to end in an A, and that's going to end in an A as well. Because rule number two, nominative plural ends in A. Rule number one, nominative and accusative are identical. Now, what is the good news? Well, outside of these endings, all the rest of the neuter endings are exactly what they were over here. Long I, long O, orum, is, and is. And so now we have another verse for the song. Us, e, o, e, orum, is, and the neuters. E, o, a, orum, is. Instead of singing the masculine column twice, we can move on to the neuter column that you see there. And so that is then the second declension neuter. Your second word embedded in this quiz, chesium, light two-wheeled carriage, according to your chapter 14. But we all know that it's really a sports car. But it's chesium, the Latin word, which is embedded there. Now, let's then move on to the third declension. Now we know for a fact that the third declension nominative is variant. It does not have an ending. And so when we look at these third declension neuters, and again you will find this list of words, these list of common neuters that we have seen and will be seeing soon in our chapters. Again, you will be given the nominative and the genitive. And the most important is the genitive because it is the genitive. Short is, short is, short is, short is, short is, short is, short is. That will reveal what declension it belongs to. And remember, the genitive also gives to us the stem of the noun. Itinéraire, nomen, murmur. Now, is the stem sometimes the same as what you see in the nominative? Yes, but most often it is not. Iter, itineris, the variant, versus the stem in the ending. The variant versus the stem in the ending. Look at onus. Now, particularly I want to point out onus, tempus, corpus, stercus, and opus. If I were to have chosen one randomly, and you were to look at that, you would automatically think, second declension nominative. No. Third declension, still nominative, but also you would think that that US is an ending. It is not. That US just happens to be the letters U and S in the variant. But think about the following. If we know when it comes to neuter words that one, the nominative is identical to the accusative, that was rule number 1, remember? And up here we have corpus, which is a body. The body does something. Think about it. In the accusative, it will also be corpus. Do you see how you could be confused by that? Tricked by that? But you have to remember it is the variant, and thus it is also the same exact form as what you saw in the nominative. Now again, outside of the form, whatever it happens to be, the form it happens to be, and then endings A versus ES, all the rest of the endings, again, are the same. Such that you have that, dative, ablative, genitive plural, dative plural, and ablative plural. Now, there is a way by which you can tell the difference of a second declension, whether it is masculine or neuter. There is not when it comes to the third declension. Iter, itineris. Why do you know it's neuter? Because I told you it is right here and you're seeing it. Nomen, nomenis. Why do you know it's neuter? Because I told you. How would it be any different than if I were to have given you Woke's Wokus? That's third declension. You don't know whether it's masculine, you don't know whether it's feminine, you don't know whether it's neuter, but pay close attention here. Not every neuter noun will have the letters US in the nominative for the third declension. Let me say that again so that it will sink in. Not every third declension neuter noun will have US in the nominative. Does that have US in the nominative? No, but it's a third declension neuter. Does that have US in the nominative? No, but it's a third declension neuter. Does that have US in the nominative? No, but it's a third declension neuter. But if you do have a third declension noun, I know because of the IS and the genitive, I know because of the IS and I know because of the IS, I know because of the IS, I know because of the short IS and the genitive. If you have a third declension noun that happens to have the letters US, not an ending, but happens to have the letters US in the nominative, it will be neuter. And that is how you then can tell. And so, for each of these, it would be onus, onus, tempus, tempus, corpus, corpus, stercus, stercus, opus, opus. And you would have to look at the context to tell whether it is the body does something or the subject verbs the body. And so it's like a rectangle and a square. In that, all rectangles are squares. It satisfies, no, that's backwards. All squares are rectangles. Oh my Lord, I almost messed that up. Let me try that again. All squares are rectangles. Every single square satisfies the parameters to be considered a rectangle as well. But not every rectangle can be a square because the side lengths on rectangles can be different, the two pairs. Every single third declension noun that has US in the nominative will be neuter. But not every third declension neuter noun will have US in the nominative. Every single square is a rectangle, but not every single rectangle is a square. Such that These all are third declension with US in the nominative. They will be neuter. But that doesn't mean that all third declension neuter nouns have that letters US, not an ending, in the nominative. And just like for the last one, we no longer repeat the masculine and the feminine for the third declension. We have a new verse, a neuter verse. And it says, variant is, ieme, ace, ibis, ace, ibis, and the neuter. Variant is, I, variant e, a, ibis, a, ibis. And now we've expanded our chart to include neuter nouns. But is it a whole bunch of new stuff? Not really. Simply know the rules. And what are those rules again? Nominative and accusative, always the same for neuters. And the nominative plural always ends with the letter A, which means the accusative plural must always end with the letter A. Your third item that is embedded, corpus, the word for body, C-O-R-P-U-S. And hopefully you understand better when it comes down to the neuter. Start learning these new endings, because you're going to have a bunch of short, little, very small quizzes to make sure that you start to learn them and start to know them. And that's why you have these extra columns for the second declension and extra column for the third declension. Thanks so much.